Okay, so what I'm going to do, I just want to show a little bit of MASH. So if I go here, and I got a new microphone, we'll see if this works. I'm just going to go in here to create, I'm going to create a cube. And let's just zoom in, I'll make it a bit bigger. Okay, great. I only need like something really simple. You can use any object you want. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Let's not use a cube. I like to use little cats. Little cats, little kitty cats. There, I got a kitty cat. Okay, let's see how this works. So I'm just going to take this cat and pivot point's all there. It's all frozen. Okay, great. I'm going to zip into, let's see if I go to FX, if I go here to MASH, my MASH menu is gone because I've just updated ZBrush, or not updated Maya to the latest Maya. So to get a hold of the Bifrost stuff. But if I go here and create MASH network, boop, there. And if I want to see the MASH editor, there we go, and I can see distribute, and I can quickly see what I've got here for my cats. Lots and lots of little kitty cats. Okay, so I've got 10. I can go in here and start to play with this distribute node here. I'm going to keep this low. Okay, 8. What about 9? That can let me do that? No. Okay, let's do 9. And I could take this distance here. Maybe I don't want to do linear. What I want to do is let's do some grid action. So grid, let's spread those little kitties out. Okay, and I can go beyond here. Boop, boop, boop. All I'm doing is holding down Control. And when you hold down Control, it turns the number into a virtual slider so you can start to play around with them a little bit. And let's see. Oh, I like that. Lots of little cats. And, whoa, maybe I'll make this go up the Y a bit more so they're not touching to start off with. Okay, so now I can do things quickly like go and hit the plus sign. You can also, let's see, when you right click here, does it do it? Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Anyway, you've got lots of little things to play with in here. Okay, you can randomize the cats. Okay, change their positions here, so there's lots of little random cats all over the place. Their rotations, their scale values, little kitties. And then if I make uniform scale, then basically just X goes and changes their scale value. Okay, so we've got lots of little cats. Reminds me of something that happened when I was younger. Lots of cats all over the place. Actually, these don't affect this, do they? Okay, good. And the position in... Let's just turn these positions down so they're not so crazy. Okay, anyway. There's some randomize, and I can horse around with these things. So it's really easy. And also, too, if this thing's closed down, you want to get to these things with the MASH editor on, you just click on it, opens up the attribute editor, goes right to it, and boom, you're there. Okay. So, next thing. And you can go in here and you can throw on things like, what am I looking for? Signal. Okay, and then when you press play, the little kitties, they start moving. Okay, now, and I can also right click on these things and delete them. Yes, you can turn them off and on here. But what I'm really interested in is keeping these kitties in a big bottle. Whoop. And I got a cylinder. Let's just go in and change this. This will be one of those cases where I'm going to crank up the subdivisions for some reason. And just so you can see what I'm looking at, I'm going to do a little trick. I'm going to go to the render stats. I'm going to turn off double-sided. I'm going to hit opposite. Okay, so you can see what I'm looking at. Little kitties in a jar. And hopefully none of them are touching to start off with. That'll end up being potentially problematic. We'll see. And then, let's just freeze this puppy. These aren't puppies, they're kitties. Okay, great. Now, what I want to do is take the MASH network here. I'm just going to select it over here in the outliner. And I'm going to zip into the MASH here. And again, I showed you can use signal, but you can also make these into particles. So I just went in and made it into a particle system. Let's just go ahead and I'm going to hit 4 so I can see my little particles. For each of the kitties, there's little particles. Okay? And then because you got particles here, next thing you could do, if I select the particles and hold down shift and I select mesh, I can make mesh driven by the particles. And when I do this, okay, my little kitties are flying around. But if I make it so that this object here, now also you'll notice there's a nucleus in the scene here. Okay, particles are flying around. There's a nucleus. Let's go to the first frame. If I take this and I go under Encloth and I go to create passive collider, now, boop, you'll see they bounce it. Oh, it doesn't look like I've got enough geometry on my cylinder to keep them in a bottle. Kitties in a bottle. Here, let's just go in and I'll do a quick mesh smooth. Okay, let's try it again. I'm just going to delete the history and I'm going to go back to Encloth, create passive collider again, just in case there's some problemo there. And I keep most of them in the bottle. Okay, now if I want to keep them in here a bit more, the other thing, why is this giving me any issues here? A couple of them are flying right out right away. Maybe they're, yeah, anyway. The big thing I want to do is if I grab the particles, if I go into the attribute editor for the particles, you can find collisions, you can find collide, and you can put on collision thickness. You can see the thickness is really, really, really small. So I'm just going to make it bigger. Boop, boop, boop. And now you can start to see some collision thickness. Let's do this. And I'd have to make this quite big. It looks like already, what if I put this up to 300? Okay, that's too much, so I can scale that back. And I probably need to center the pivots on the cats, but whatever. Anyway, now you should see that they should stick inside of here a bit more. The head sticking out. And I can have on self-collide, so they collide with each other and then they bounce a bit more. Okay, and the self-collide scale here, it looks like that should be around 100 too. Okay, maybe too much bouncy. Too much bouncy for the kitties. Okay, anyway, you get the idea. So basically now I have a particle system that's driving my MASH network of objects. And don't forget that these could also be instances too. If you check in the options when you make the object, or you can take it later on, you can go in and select the MASH and you could go to MASH and utilities, you can do the switch MASH geometry type to instances, but we're not going to do that right now. The other part that I'm interested in, let's go here to the end particles. I'm going to turn off the collision thing so I don't see that. There's this other part that really interests me because I noticed that this does not exist anywhere. People could maybe not figure this out so easily. Unless Ian Waters did something I didn't look at. If I go down here to color, okay, I can go to color and I can change the color of this to some kind of like purple cats. Okay, and I can change this to random hue so I get different hues on these things. Saturation, make them really bright, purpley kitty cats. And I could change the intent or the values so I can make them darker and lighter. You could just make them all just like one color, darker and lighter, right? And saturation down, and anyway, you can play with this all you want to. Okay, but the big problem, and actually I'll just take this object here, get the shape node, and also make it sure this doesn't have any primary visibility for whatever reason. I'm just being kind of weird about it. I want to close this, and I want to try to render this in Vray. So if I go over here to the render settings, and I get the render settings, and they just popped over into my other monitor, Vray, okay, great. So let's go into Vray, and I'm going to throw on a light in the scene. I'm just going to go and pop in a dome light, and then I'm going to go ahead and render this. And I get a bunch of great kitty cats. And actually, I got one other problem. This object here, actually, am I allowed to hide this and it won't cause me any problems? So let's try it again. Boop. Yeah, they're all gray. Okay, now I went and I applied this color thing, and this color is actually applying it on a per vertex level. So I want to get the per vertex level on into my render in Vray. And so normally you'd think you can't do that, but you can. If I go zipping over here to the hypershade, actually I don't even know if I want the hypershade for this one, but if I'm hunting around in Vray, Vray has a thing here in the utilities called the user color. Okay, so I'm going to select my user color. And if I want to get this mesh network in here, I can either use the color. So I do this and I hit select, and there's kind of like no way to kind of bring this thing in here. Okay, so I've got to flip over to my node editor. Whoop. So I've got the color node in here, and I've found that you can also use the repro node as well. So I'll just sit there and see if I can do this. Does that add one in? No, that just puts this thing on the side. Okay, and boop. So what have I got? I got the mesh color over here. I don't have this thing, so let's just go in and clean this out. Bloop, and bring in the repro. And if I need to, am I allowed to bring the color some way in here? Nope. Nope. What if I hit select, hold down shift, grab the shape node, and I went and I hit this with something like that? Do I get both of them? I get the repro and I get the color. Okay, so I've done that. Can I hide these things? Nope. Okay. So the other thing I want is, let's just hit tab. Let's go and make a new Vray material. Vray MTL. Boop. There. And so what do we got? We've got the repro mesh. And I've got my color here. Now another little trick here. Actually, we'll do it on the repro mesh, but I found that you can do both these, and I'm not sure if there's a problem with either one, or if one's better than the other or not. What's the other thing I want? I want from the hypershade. Come on. In my utilities, I created the Vray. Whoop. Got a middle click. Middle click and drag. That brings it in. Okay, great. Go away. We want to hook these things up. So there's my Vray user color, and there's the repro mesh. If you right click on, or if you click on this, it brings the stack down, so you can see like 3 different versions. Come on. There we go. And of course I get really impatient, so when I'm doing the video tutorial, there are 3. And do I get the thing that says color set right there? I do. You'll also see that this one has a similar thing, and if you right click on it, you can also hit here show all attributes, because I noticed that sometimes it's not very user friendly with Vray. It feels like there's something bad going on with Vray and Vray and Maya. I'm just looking here and I'm noticing I don't see it here, so if I right click and I hold it down and I go to show all attributes, then I will find lurking down here something that says color set name. Yeah, so I found color set name and color set both work. So I'm going to open this up, and I'll take this one here and I go into show all. Actually, before I do show all, let's just double check if I hit this. Come on. Once, twice, 3 times. There's the user attribute. So I can take the color name and I can pop it here. And then I can take this one here, right click, show all attributes. And there's the color sitting right down there. And so I can take this thing and, actually I want the out color to color, bloop, there. And if I put this material on my selection here, so I'm going to go in and grab the repro mesh, and if I go in and I right click on this, assign material viewport selection, great. And if I go and I double check, if I go and I give myself a little render poo, there they are. I've got kitties with color. And so I've just got all my vertex information, vertex color information on the individual felines. And I'm just going to double check something over here. If I go in and I grab color set name, come on, you bastard, stop. Stop. because I found the color set name works as well. Middle click, boop, override that one. If I go and I do another render, it does the exact same thing. Okay, so that's interesting to me. And I'm going to stop this. So there you have it. And I'm done with my mash.